only got 20% on the iPad, so we'll have to be quick here, okay, so we can get this recorded. My name's Austin. I'm one of the organizers here at 1 Million Cups. And here's a picture of all of us. Sorry, this microphone is finicky this morning. Find one of us and give us somebody that wants to come and speak. We're always looking for speakers. Bring your friends. Anybody. Invite everybody, please. Sponsors should be next. There we go. And here's some of the sponsors that make this morning possible. Here, I'm trying to kill time for you to get Charity here. So I think my next slide is, okay. Does she have a presentation or you? All right, while she gets set up, it's Kira with Tabletop Toastmasters.
Bunch of T's.
Good morning, everybody. I don't think this is on.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. I do have a speaking partner today, and she's coming across town from the other event this morning. So when she dashes in here, just that's why she's running late.
We'll clap for her.
Yeah, we'll clap for her.
That sounds fantastic. I'm sure she'll appreciate it. I am with Tabletop Toastmasters. We are located here in Joplin. How many of you have heard about Toastmasters?
I'm late because this is my third speaking engagement of the morning, so give me grace.
We'll forgive you.
How many of you have heard about Toastmasters? That is fantastic. I think that was everybody. That's awesome. But I bet you don't know everything about it, and so that's why we're here today. Toastmasters is an international organization. We are represented by local clubs in more than 140 countries, which I think is amazing that we're that far spread. Our main focus is on professional development in the areas of leadership and communication. We have a lot of opportunities within the club to work on those skills, and there are also opportunities for growth in the organizational hierarchy, in the area, the division, the district, the region, and even international if you really want to take it that far. So plenty of opportunities for people who have that drive. I am going to hand it off to Charity, and she's going to tell you about her Toastmaster story.
Thank you, Kira. She's very much more polished than I am. But like I said, this is my third speaking engagement of the morning. I started out with Howie this morning on Good Morning Four States, promoting my new role at the Boys and Girls Club. And then I just spoke at Good Morning Joplin, also promoting the new position. And so, and we also were on, what was that, Monday, with Howie talking about Toastmasters. And a year ago, I honestly would not have signed up for any of those speaking engagements. I honestly never was interested in even doing 1 Million Cups, even though I owned a business for 2 years, because I was terrified. And I think most people are terrified to speak in front of people. So the way that I found Toastmasters was I was on City Council campaign committee. Drew Kimball kind of roped me into that, and then our first event, he's like, oh, by the way, you're the MC. And I'm like, you didn't tell me that when I signed up. And so I literally was like, the floor could swallow me up and I would be happy. And so I met with Michelle Holloman, who some of you guys are familiar with her. She worked at the chamber briefly before she moved to Texas. And since then, she's became my life coach, and it's been an amazing journey. But she introduced me to Toastmasters, and I think you had spoke here prior to that. And so I'd kind of heard about it, and I joined primarily for the public speaking portion. But what I've been amazed by is it has been so much more than that. And it has translated so well into my new role. The first day that I started, I was a part of 2 or 3 meetings that I now have to run, and that is one thing that is, we do that in Toastmasters. Every week there's an agenda, somebody's in charge of running the meeting, there's different roles, and so learning how to create the agendas, organize the meeting, make sure there's a good flow, try not to have people running in at the last minute. There's always someone texting, are you on your way? But just those little details and your communication styles, there's just so much more to it than public speaking. And the thing is, I think most of us think of public speaking like a forum like this, and I should have spit my gum out, I'm aware of that. It's very unprofessional. Most people think of it as maybe a big crowd, you're on a stage, and that's what we think of public speaking as. But I watched back our interview with Howie from Monday, and I realized that I was looking down most of the time. And so even that is a form of public speaking. Or even, I know the 30 minutes leading up to this, you guys are in a group speaking. Maybe there's 4 or 5 people. I mean, that is a form of public speaking. So there's lots of other things, and most of us work in the business world. And leading meetings, also a form of public speaking, because we want to speak with confidence. But the biggest thing that I've learned is if we don't speak for whatever organization we're a part of, whether it's a business or a non-for-profit, who will? And we need to do that with confidence. And the thing is nobody wants us to fail. I mean, you guys don't want me to get up here and feel nervous and awkward. You're going to feel that energy. And so doing that every Saturday, and yes, it is Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Everybody wants to sleep in on Saturday. But doing that hones that skill and brings so much more comfort. And I haven't felt nervous today. I probably displayed some nervousness, but I haven't felt it. And it just builds a lot of confidence. And so that's my story with Toastmasters. I'll hand it back to you.
I joined Toastmasters about 3.5 years ago. In March of 2020, I was preparing for a work presentation that was going to be 2 to 3 minutes long, and I was terrified. I was so scared. Like Charity said, I just wish the ground would swallow me whole. That didn't happen, but instead, the world went on a lockdown for a global pandemic, and my presentation was canceled. I was so happy. But I knew that that was going to come around the next year, and I did not want to ever be that scared again. So I found a local Toastmasters club, and in June of 2020, I joined. And in that 2.5 years, I have grown so much in communication skills, in leadership, and just confidence. Like having the confidence to make choices and make changes in my life that I would have never even dreamed of doing before that, because I didn't feel like I had that skill or that ability to make those choices confidently. And now, here we are, speaking in front of you, a little nervous, but not too bad. We've grown so much, the both of us, and I've really enjoyed watching Charity grow over the past year. We do have an event coming up this weekend, and Charity is going to tell you about that.
So another skill that is kind of learned in the club is we do a open house every quarter. So 4 times a year we have a party. It's basically like a business after hours, but this time we are going to do it at a regular meeting time so that you guys can come and see exactly what a meeting looks like from start to finish. We try to model that in our open houses typically, but this one will be just like a regular meeting. Austin Rose is actually the one in charge. But we also just changed venues to the old Vaso building over by, what is that, Blackthorn? What's the address? I forgot my name. 512 South Joplin. And so that'll be this Saturday at 8 a.m. We'll have breakfast, and you can come see from start to finish what that looks like and what you can gain out of that. And there's so much value. Anita's a part of it. She's not been there lately, though. I'm calling you out. I hope you're going to be at the open house. But I want to invite all of you to come. Bring a friend. You don't have to show up and feel like you need to speak. Like, just come observe and check it out. And you don't have to join the first time. You can come 2 or 3 times to check it out first. But I encourage you, if you do anything in our community leadership-wise, and I feel like most people in this room are leaders in some capacity. I feel like we're all leaders in some capacity in our life, but for sure in the business world, I think it's well worth the investment in yourself because it'll have a ripple effect on our community. So I hope you guys come out and join us. Is that all?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Is there a 20%?
Yes. What is it? $60 for a 6 months?
It's $60 every 6 months.
Very cheap investment into self-growth. Like, if anybody, actually knows me probably the longest of anybody in here, the amount of confidence that I have right now in my life, and I contribute a lot of it to Toastmasters. Obviously, I've been working with a life coach too, but that amount is so cheap compared to the value that you receive. Plus the group of people. You think on a Saturday morning it's going to be sleepy, like the energy is always so high in there. Great question. Thanks for asking that.
About how many people are usually there on Saturday?
Our membership is about 25, but we usually have 3 or 4 people online and 10 to 15 people in person. And that leads me to say we are a hybrid club, so you can join from your living room if you want to. This works really well for people that have to travel a lot but still want to attend. So you can come to the meeting in person when you're in town, and then when you're out of town, you can join on our Zoom meeting.
That's also another form of public speaking, because I gave my last speech on Zoom, and the feedback, we didn't talk about that. At the end of the meeting, there's an evaluation. So, like, when people come speak here, you don't get feedback on how you did. I mean, everybody's like, oh, good job, because we want to be encouraging and supportive, and you do a good job. But we do the constructive criticism, and so the criticism that I received on Zoom versus in person was very different, because I had no experience in speaking on Zoom, and so that's a very interesting aspect of that as well. But we have like 4 members that are strictly on Zoom that don't even live in the state.
Connecticut, South Dakota,
Kansas City.
Kansas City, and California.
If you have a question, let's use the mic because we are recording, so who has another question?
So you have roughly 25 that participate each week. How many do you think you could facilitate? I mean, is there kind of an upper end of to ensure engagement or participation?
We will take as many people as want to join, with the caveat that if we get any larger than 30 or 40, that would result in dividing into 2 clubs. Right now, Joplin has 2 clubs, and we could probably manage.
I can't get that on the microphone. Just saying.
Joplin could probably carry 5 or 6 clubs, and so we would just, if we got too large, we would just split into 2 clubs.
But it's Saturday morning at 8 a.m. We're not going to have that problem. If somebody wants to get better early.
I have a question, just real quick. So, I was in Toastmaster years and years and years ago, so it's been many, many years, but you do it on Saturdays, so is it, every week?
Yes.
Or, okay, every week, okay, and how long does it last? The
An
meeting?
hour-ish.
An hour
Depends on
each?
how high the energy is, honestly, because sometimes we get a little rowdy and interrupt people. But it's supposed to be around an hour.
Yeah, officially it's 8 to 9, but it's usually more like 9:15, sometimes 9:30. But toward the end of the meeting, it's more informal, and so if you had to leave for something else, you could.
So I'm sure that it's changed since I've been in. What's the format? I mean, how does the meeting flow?
Yeah, sure. So we start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. It's very formal, and like I said, we have an agenda, and so usually we start out with the speakers. We usually have 2 speakers, and then we have something called table topics, which is for things like this. When you're out networking, you are honing in on those impromptu speaking. So somebody's in that role of the table topic master, and they ask random questions, and they just pick a random person, and then you have to come up there. You have 1 to 2 minutes to answer it, and so it's really honing in on those when you're out in the community. I mean, somebody might ask you a question, and you got to have it. So that's and then after that, we move into the evaluation portion, and then they evaluate speakers, and then there's somebody that evaluates the whole meeting, and then we end with something we call Happy Bucks, and that's how we raise money for the club to pay for our open house and any kind of, like, we're members of the Carl Junction Chamber, so anything like that gets paid for by Happy Bucks, and that's basically just people come up there and brag about what's happy in their life and give money to do so.
Question. Great presentation. Good job. The 2 of you have shared your testimony of how that's impacted you. Since you've been in the organization for a while, does someone else's testimony come to mind where this really revolutionized how they conduct themselves in business that you'd be happy to share with us?
We have someone who's been a member almost a year now, so I don't know if that's exactly what you're aiming for, but he is a recent college graduate and took speech and debate in high school. But when he first came up and started speaking, he said, like every third word.
Yeah, that was me.
He was confident, he could get his point across, but he said, the whole time he was up there. And what, 2 months maybe, it took him to almost completely get rid of that.
Well, and also, Anita's here. We have a member that's an employee of hers, and her dad has been kind of leading the club for what, 7, 8 years or longer, maybe longer.
6 years.
And when I first met her, she would come and she would sit towards the back, and she literally would sit in the chair with her legs like in the chair crossed, would not talk, would not participate. She just came, she just watched. And now, I mean, she's well into her first pathway. There's different pathways, and seeing her come out of her shell and blossom has been amazing for me. And that's one of the other things. There are seasoned members in the group that you kind of aspire to be like, but I think that we all kind of mentor each other. And when the feedback is being given, maybe Kira gave a speech, but she's getting her evaluation. I'm like, oh, that's something I need to work on, and I can take note of that. And so that's another really great value as well in changing, it's kind of building one another up. I hope that answers your question.
It did.
I'm going to piggyback right off of that. I absolutely need to do Toastmasters. Excuse me. Kara is fantastic just talking to people. She has talked to me so many times about needing to go, and what am I doing right now? She keeps saying, you are so distracted. And I'm doing it right now. I'll be standing up there talking, and somebody will walk in the door.
That's me.
Yeah, so I know that I've got these problems. I try not to. She's talked to me about this for at least a year. And then
Well, I
you
guess
talk
we'll
about,
see you Saturday then.
I'm out of town this weekend. But you talking about the gum. Y'all are great telling people little tidbits of stuff that you don't do.
Well, I will tell you, once you go, you see everybody else's stuff too. It ruins you. I watched the video the other day and I sent it to the group. I was like, how many times they say
When I was in Toastmasters, I was terrified, but I used to say all the time.
I still do
In
it.
one little speech, I think I did
I hear
it
it when I
49
go.
times or something. So anyway, I kind of wondered.
Yeah, we actually have an counter. That's one of the roles, is an counter and the timer. So there's little roles too, and you really train your mind to catch those things.
So even to this day, I can count numbers.
So how many times have
You
I?
had 3.
Oh, good. That's an improvement for me. But I did have gum.
Is there an age range that you kind of target, that you're looking for? I would see maybe high school kids going into, or college kids going into the professional world could benefit from something like that. Is that?
So you have to be 18.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Learned something new today.
But other than that, we're welcoming all ages. If you saw my pictures earlier, we had Joe, who is a new member, and I don't know how old he is, but I mean, he's an older gentleman.
Be our grandpa. And I'm not being disrespectful, I don't know how old he is, and he's old enough to be my grandpa for sure. But, I mean, how old's Abby? She's my age.
So 18 and all the way up.
But we've seen all walks too, we've had politicians come in when they're running for different things. We've had 3, 4? I think 4 since I've been there, so kind of all over the place.
Sure. Salespeople, we have a veteran service officer, we have somebody that works in the Jasper County Drug Court. Sometimes we have people that just want something interesting to do. I mean,
It is a lot of fun.
yeah, we have a great time.
Can you talk about the levels? You had a word for it.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about my next level. I just finished up my first one, and the pathway that I'm going into, the first speech that I have to do, I have to take a little bit of a personality test, which I love personality tests, but this one is specifically to communication styles. And so I'm really excited to do that one. And so you choose different, based upon what your goal is. So I think mine's leadership, but you probably know more about the pathways than I do.
You want to elaborate on that?
So there are 11 different options that you can choose from. Just a few of those. There's one called Presentation Mastery, which is a very generic, if you don't really know what you want, that's a good one to start with. There's one called Strategic Relationships. There's one about humor. There's one for coaching. And again, there's 11, so I definitely haven't listed all of them, but there's lots of options. And each pathway has 5 levels, and each level has 2, 3, 4 projects that you work on. Some of them are meant to work on certain skills, like vocal variety or gestures. And some of them are topical, like the communication style. There's also a leadership style. And you'll go through the online lesson, and then you'll do a speech, either on that topic or highlighting that skill that you've been working on.
Did you have a question?
I think you kind of covered it. My question before was just, what are the topics you're speaking on? So those are determined by the pathway you're on. Are you assigned the actual topic, or just like the general type of, that's what I was wondering what you're talking about.
Most of the time you can talk about anything you want. I did a speech on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy one time, which was so much fun.
She did a great job. But I've shared some of my childhood traumas, and then you've got people who are preparing for business or presentations, so they, maybe they're trying to learn how to speak with it quicker, because people, especially in this community, they're really bad, they'll sit and read off of their slides, and it's like, we're out here, we want to see you. And so even those kind of things, preparing for things for work. I know Jared he held a 20-minute presentation he had to do for the courts, and he came and practiced at Toastmasters. So you get a wide range of things, you hear people's stories, and that's what really gels the group, because they've heard a lot about me that people in the community haven't, because you're all see me in a business standpoint. And so when you're being vulnerable in a group setting like that, you can't help but get close and really gel into the group that way.
I got one more thing, just an idea. So both of you are familiar with the CAPS program and most
Yes.
CAPS. I know the cutoff or the level is 18, but I would encourage you to reach out to those organizations and maybe have a day where the students could come
Oh, that's a good
with
idea.
a sponsor with them to maybe one of your open houses. That would be so huge for those kids. In addition to all of the FBLA chapters, just so that all of us can be mindful of bridging that gap
Yeah.
between high school and the working world or going on to college, because Toastmasters is something that everybody should probably have in their life.
I agree. I'm biased, though.
There are actually a couple options for that younger age group. The first one is called Speechcraft. It is a condensed program for Toastmasters. It's 8 sessions, and pretty much anybody can participate in that. It has to be hosted by a club. And then there's also something called a Gavel Club. And to be honest, I don't know a lot about those, but they're made for those groups that are not able to participate in a regular club for one reason or another.
But I'll reach out to Kelly. I have a question though. Does anybody know what this is called?
Dias?
Electric. Podium's what you stand on. I learned that in Toastmasters.
What's it called?
It's electric. And at the club, we have a seasoned member that would be quick to correct you if you call it. But I was a PK, it was a podium my whole life.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Good job, guys.